Well, and a good day to you. Happy Feast of St. Clair on this Friday. Take two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I am Jerry Usher. Debbie Georgiani is alongside me, actually virtually. She's at home in Arizona and I'm in California. And we have our show team in place today. Want to always give them a wonderful shout out. That would be our call screener, Matt Gabensky, our producer, Ace McKay, and our social media manager, Jeff Burson. And today we're going to talk about something that is starting to be developed, investigated, tested, and we want to know what your thoughts are about self-driving cars. And Debbie, I guess you live in an area where these things are all over the place.
It is we are a testing state for the autonomous cars, the Waymo cars and other manufacturers that are going around testing with a driver in them, and sometimes not. I mean, it's completely empty. You see it running through the streets of Phoenix all by itself and going pretty fast. So these self-driving cars are coming to a town near you. It's just looking like it's going in that direction. So how do you feel about it? How do you feel about these self-driving cars being on the road next to you, your kids? You know, we have a lot of kids and grandkids that are driving. How do you feel about it? Would you get inside of one of these cars and be a passenger? Would you feel comfortable getting on a freeway, a highway? I mean, some of our freeways in Arizona, Jerry, people are driving as fast as 80 miles an hour. Would you feel comfortable being in a driverless car 80 miles an hour? Let's talk about it. And maybe some of you say, you know, that's the way it's going. It's safe. That's why they're testing it in Arizona. So you know what? Let's talk about it. 833-288-3986.
All right. That's the topic of conversation today as we head into the weekend. And we don't have a show without you, though, so Take Two family, we need you to call in and weigh in on this topic. Again, it's 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. Love to hear from first-time callers, first-time listeners. As Debbie says, you don't have to be Catholic to listen or call into the show. But we're just talking about these driverless cars. You know, I make an analogy, Debbie, with texting. I went kicking and screaming into texting. I just did not like it at first. I don't like typing with my thumbs. You know, the keyboards of the future, I say, are going to have two keys, one for each thumb. But so what I do a lot of times is I will type out a message and email it to myself and then copy and paste it into a text. I just don't like typing with my thumbs. But I do text a lot now. So that makes me kind of wonder and ask the question, where am I going to come down on this driverless car question? If they get tested and it looks pretty safe, would I give it a try? I would say right now, probably not, but never know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know that you stated this publicly because you want me to apologize again. I have been apologizing for years. I am the one that got you back into texting. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I said I'm sorry. Would you please just forgive me?
Okay, right.
Accept
here on Global Radio, I forgive you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. I am the one that did it, though. Remember? I remember when you said to me, "I don't text," and I said, "But I do." So I have a lot to say about this. And if you work for a company that's producing these self-driving cars, you know, I have nothing against technology and the advancement of technology. I really don't. I do live in the Southeast Valley of Arizona. And just a month ago, I was sharing with Jerry that I was on the road from my town to the next town over. Now, keep in mind, there's 250,000 in my town, and there's about 250,000 in the town next to me. So that's 500,000 people that live in the two towns side by side. And I was driving from my town to the one closest to me, and I was next to two driverless Waymo cars. Both of them did not have a test driver in the car. They were empty. And they were driving next to me at 45 miles an hour. One went to the stoplight with me and then took off when the light turned green. And I happened to have a pretty fast car, and I just wanted to see how fast this thing went. And it went from 0 to 45 in a split second.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. I have to tell you. I called my husband and I said, I'm never driving again. Never. If this is the way it's going. So no, I have I have many issues with it, and I understand why they're testing it in Arizona. I know that our previous governor arranged some, agreement to have it tested in Arizona. Arizona has very wide streets, so that would make sense. If you're testing it, you want to make sure this thing stays between the lines, and I get that. But I don't know, Jerry, if I would feel comfortable. I think I would be praying the rosary nonstop in the back seat of a Waymo driverless car on the freeway.
Well, we want to know what you think about it, Take Two family. Don't base your opinion or your phone call on what Debbie and I have shared. We're both a little bit hesitant about these driverless cars. Maybe you feel completely differently. We would love to hear about that. Have you gone on a ride with one of these cars without a driver in it? What do you think? Where do you think this all should be going? Love to hear from you today. Got to fill up those phone lines. Let's head into the weekend with a strong, impactful show today at 833-288-3986. Take Two at EWTN.com. The show website, take2show.com. And, of course, on social media. Hello, we're waving to those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube. You can post your comments there, and Jeff Burson will get those over to us.
You just said something really interesting. You always do. You're very smart, very brilliant. But Jerry, after the show, I'm going to call the company that is right near where I live, and I'm going to ask if I can test drive just in the city streets. I don't want to go on the freeway. I'm going to see if I can be a passenger. Why not? Okay. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I see other people as passengers in the back seat of these these self-driving cars. Is that the only company, Waymo? There's other ones, I believe.
I don't know. Actually, it's they haven't come to a town near me just yet. So, but I've traveled to some areas of the country where I've seen them, and it's really kind of surreal,
Yeah. So you've seen the satellite fans on the sides and picking up the signal to I'm always thinking, what happens if a bird gets stuck in one of those things? Does the car go flying off the road? I mean, really? Seriously. So let's talk about it, folks. Please call in. You guys definitely have something to say about it. And also, these cars are coming to you. I understand they're in San Francisco and LA and Austin, Texas. So be ready. Here's the number, 833-288-3986. Don't get started with your weekend yet. We expect your call here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
No one does Catholic radio
the world over.
Women Made New
The Bear Wozniak Adventure.
like EWTN.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Williams, inviting you to Birmingham for the free EWTN Family Celebration. It's Saturday, August 26th. Enjoy talks from your favorite EWTN radio and TV hosts, including me. You can shop at EWTN's religious catalog, attend Holy Mass, and be part of a televised show. There's even a Eucharistic procession through the streets of Birmingham. Go to EWTN.com/family celebration, find out more, and to register. I look forward to seeing you there.
This is Debbie Georgiani. If you missed part of today's show, catch the encore tonight at midnight Eastern or anytime at EWTN Podcast Central. Visit us at EWTN.com/radio/podcasts.
The most original Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
This is Father Joseph Mary. On this week's Mother Angelica Answering the Call, Mother shows us how we can become saints. Also, she discusses becoming closer to God through illness and letting go of anger towards God.
Mother Angelica Answering the Call, Sunday afternoon, 2 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
It's your show, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and you are coming through big time. We have one phone line still open at 833-288-3986. Talking about the self-driving, driverless cars today. Where do you come down on that? Would you take a ride in one? I don't know, have you seen them around the area where you are? We're going to talk about a lot of important angles on this, but before we go to the phones, I want to tell you about a prayer book from the EWTN Religious Catalog. It is called Sacred Heart of Jesus and Immaculate Heart of Mary Prayer Book. Of course, two of the most beloved devotions in the church are the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. You can grow in your devotion to the two hearts with the free Sacred Heart and Immaculate Heart Prayer ebook from EWTN. So it's not the religious catalog per se, but it's at EWTN.com/Catholicism and click on Seasons and Feast Days, and it's a free ebook on the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. A great spiritual gift to you from the folks at EWTN.
Okay, I agree with Jerry. There is one open phone line, so somebody is just waiting to grab your cell phone and start calling because you have something to say about this. Just think about it for a moment. It's going to, if you think that you're going to be exempt from this, I don't believe so, because I think that's the way it's headed. It's headed towards going in this direction for many reasons. It's part of that whole AI movement and advancement. So we really should be talking about it now, not when it's on top of us and we don't know what to do about it. 833-288-3986. Those autonomous cars, those driverless cars. And what do you feel about it? Okay, Ann is up first, and Ann is in Nebraska on Spirit Catholic Radio. Hi, Ann. Welcome.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? I'm driving, so that's why.
Very well, yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad you're behind the wheel,
perfect.
Ann.
Oh, thanks. Yes, and it's a real human. Anyway, my question for you was, if this car is in an accident for some reason, who is liable for that accident? Because there is no one driving that vehicle.
Right. Well, and I'm not. Don't completely quote me on this, but I have a background in insurance, PNC insurance as well, and it's my understanding that the liability, the responsibility, of course, because you always say the driver is at fault, right? But I believe in this case, it would be the owner, the operating owner of that vehicle. So the owner of that vehicle would be responsible. So that's how they're always going to have somebody responsible. So they're going to have to figure out a way to how to trace that back to who's responsible, whether it was the operator who operated that particular car or the company that produces that car. But there's they have to distinguish who could be at fault, especially with an accident. I will tell you, Ann, that I believe in Arizona, because we are a testing ground, and we have been for a couple years, there have been several accidents. So you probably
wasn't there a fatality one time?
I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. So, Ann, when in your leisure time, you probably could Google search Arizona testing ground for autonomous cars and what is the results and what are the results. You could probably find a lot of information there on, and I will tell you that in my humble opinion, I think for us who live in Arizona, we are a little concerned. I mean, they're everywhere now. I mean, it's not like you just see one every, 200, 300 cars. You're seeing one pretty much in every crowded city. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting. They're not few and far between. So this is going to become a regular occurrence. And I think it would be wise for people to do the homework. And I know Jerry just Google searched. Did you see anything?
You know me very well, yes. There is a story on the internet. I just did a search for driverless car Phoenix fatality, and it says it was in 2020. The backup driver, like you said, Debbie, was charged with negligent homicide. It turned out he was streaming an episode of the television show The Voice at the time and not paying attention to what he was doing. So there you go. You were pretty much right on. It was, but what's curious to me, when there's an accident, non-fatal, please God, there's always usually the two different perspectives on what happened, each of the drivers. In this case, you're only going to have one human driver to tell his side or her side of the story. I don't know where they're going to go to get the other side of the story, but
Well, you're going to have to rely on eyewitness reports as well, which is going to that's also going to complicate situations. I was sharing with Jerry Ann that the one good thing, if you want to say there's a good thing about this, if you do have an accident, you're not going to have a hit and run accident. I mean, because the car pretty much stops at that point. So what do you think, Ann?
Well, I think it's worth looking into. It sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Ann, for the call. Our producer Ace just made a note here. He says, I bet the self-driving cars have cameras to record.
They do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do. You should see how high tech it is. I got to look inside of one of them, and it's very interesting. I mean, they're fascinating cars. I mean, you're talking, this is like almost like the Batmobile. It's like unbelievable. But I don't know. It's to me, it's kind of creepy. I'll be honest with you. It's just creepy to be next to when you know how you're at a stoplight and you glance over to the person next to you and there's no one. It's just creepy.
Well, yeah, and I would just add this question. Just because we can, should we? I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm not like hardcore against this or anything. I just put that question out there for you to take to family. Just because we can, should we? Because there's a lot of things in the world today that we can do that we maybe should not do. I'm not going to place a morality gauge on driverless cars or anything, but just love to hear from you. We got a phone line open that Ann was on there, 833-288-3986. What are your thoughts on these self-driving cars? Would you jump in one, and have you done so? Are they around your area being tested?
Okay, so let's hear what Julia has to say in Columbus, Ohio on St. Gabriel Radio. Hi, Julia.
Hello there. It's an interesting thing to get to talk about these things. I'm pretty old by now, but I've always thought of it as something in a comic book somewhere, but now that it's a real deal, I mean, real rubber on the road, I've got questions. Okay, here's one. Is it all electric?
I can't remember. I was next to it, and I think there are the testing ones. I think there are some that are electric. I think I remember seeing that. You could tell because you don't see the exhaust pipe or something like that. There's ways to tell if they're electric, but I don't know. That's a good question. Do you know, Jerry?
I do not, but I would suspect that probably are. If they're not now, they're probably going to move in that direction, just because that's sort of the green movement, in the direction of electric cars. I would say probably at some point I would guess they all will be.
Yeah. Here's another strange aspect of this, Julia and Jerry. Like, what happens when the charger goes down and they have to find a charging station? So the thing rolls into a charging station. What if it doesn't make it and it's just like on the side? It probably is. It's probably on the side of the street, and then somebody has to go out and tow it in. I mean, what a mess. I mean, how weird,
well, Our producer Ace to the rescue again, Julia. He said they are all electric cars at this point. So
okay, they're all electric. See, so I did notice that. The thing that's so strange, Julia and Jerry, is these rotating, spinning kind of fans that are on the the front, the sensors. On the front and on the side, so they can pick up all the all the navigation tools. It's just a strange look. To me, it just seems so. It has the ability to be damaged easily. Like, I was thinking, somebody could just, how vandals and stuff, people that want to hurt things, they could hit a hammer on one of them and, damage one of them. And then what happens? The car takes off thinking that it's receiving a proper signal. Are there mechanisms in place to say, hey, the right side sensor's out completely? The whole thing is weird. I don't trust that, is I guess what I'm saying. What do you think, Julia?
Well, I'm thinking that how do they know where they're going and what's in front of them or what's beside them? Or should I make this turn now so I don't run over a pedestrian? Do they have any understanding or any things to take care of that?
Yes. If you see on the 5 o'clock news in Arizona, we get updates on this all the time. The computer system inside of these and outside is so highly advanced, Julia. It's unbelievable. They can pick up when something's even far away, that it's approaching them quickly. It knows how to stop on a dime. It knows how to quickly pick up pace, how to maneuver around things that fall into their lane. I mean, it's unbelievable. It is something you would see on some kind of movie that is just so what, like a sci-fi movie, Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is. And maybe this is all going to shake out really well and we'll all be safe and it'll be a great new advance for mankind. I don't know. We'll wait and see. Julia, thank you for calling on that. We appreciate that. 833-288-3986. We do have some social media comments. Jim, who's watching on Facebook. Hi there, Jim, and the rest.
Hi, Jim.
He said, I would love, capital letters, LOVE, a self-driving car. I cannot drive and cannot always pay for an Uber to take me to Mass. So Jim would be all in for this, Debbie.
Well, see, and that's why, you said it earlier, Jerry, it's interesting. There's so many things that look so good on the surface, and then you can find the faults with them or the things that can really go wrong or maybe just be even tragic. But then there are some good uses, like what Jim was just sharing, or people that, cannot, are disabled and cannot drive, they have a driver. There's also these driverless cars, I understand, are really helping salespeople because they are able to be in the back seat doing their work, and they have a driver. Well, it's not really a driver; it's a autonomous car, but they're being driven around, and they can get a lot more work done. Mm-hmm. So there's some good to it.
Yeah, and Charles on Facebook and Jeff on YouTube both, excuse me, feel the same way about this. Charles says, I see kids texting and driving. Self-driving would be safer for teens. Mm-hmm. And Jeff on YouTube says, I would rather have a self-driver car than some teenager texting next to me while driving. So.
Well, see, I agree. Yeah, that's true too. I know. I mean, that's true. So maybe these are, maybe they are going to be better, Mm-hmm. The only thing that I think is it gets people nervous, Jerry, is that when there is an accident, it's because, it goes all over the news. This was done by a driverless car.
Well, it's going to be big news, yeah.
Yeah, and then it really just gets people really crazy. So, okay, where do you want to go next? We have a lot of comments coming in now.
Well, Larry's in Columbus, Ohio, listening on St. Gabriel Radio, and we welcome you, Larry, to the conversation. How are you?
Great. How are you two? And thanks for welcoming me again. A little show note here. I heard Debbie asked if I was on with her Friday cheer, and Jerry mentioned the Friday Katy Perry song. Mm-hmm. I was on.
Oh, you were. Hi, Larry. Oh, good.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, I did the trifecta today with Dr. Greg and Lisa, Johnette, and now you two.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, on the driverless car, it takes me right to a commercial that comes on here with Ave Maria funds. Would you get on an airplane without a pilot? No. I wouldn't want to be on a road without a driver in a car next to me either. So, I'm not. I'm more mechanically minded. We mess up enough, mechanical malfunctions with the human operator, obviously, or even if it's a drone type with high tech, No, I'm not feeling it. How about you two?
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Jer?
Well, yeah, I think we both shared a little bit, Larry, about our feelings on this. I like the analogy to a pilotless plane, although, there's a major difference. It's not necessarily apples to apples, but you got, in a plane, you're up at how many altitude, 38,000 feet or something. But still, you can be very seriously injured in a car crash as well. But I don't know. I agree with you. I definitely would not get on a plane without a pilot, and that's maybe coming down the road at some point. But Debbie, I just, I don't know. The jury's still out for me on whether I would get in a driverless car right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I agree with you, Larry. I am a face-to-face person, soul-to-soul person. I'm sharing with you only because I'm living in an area where we have them all around us. it is strange beyond belief. It feels like almost like an apocalypse type feeling where you just glance around and there's no human beings around you. I mean, it's just bizarre to me. Now, I do understand that for those that are disabled or cannot drive or need a driver or something of that nature, these can be a very useful way to get from one place to another. I understand that. But in general, if we all went to that, I just find it to be strange. I don't know. And I don't feel comfortable with it because, like, what if you're on a rural road and you needed help? I mean, you're waving down a bunch of cars that have no drivers. I mean, the whole thing is just odd to me. Larry, any final comments?
I'm with you both. Yeah, no, I'm good. Thanks for the topic today. Very interesting.
Oh, you're welcome, Larry. Thank you.
Yeah.
This man to being like everything else, you get driven or herded into doing certain things that you initially maybe don't have a comfort level with. I'm thinking of like cashless. We're moving to a totally cashless society.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of like, gosh, I really don't want to go in that direction. Now I do. Now I do it. I mean, I rarely carry any cash at all. So this could be another one of those things, Debbie, where they just kind of herd the people into this. There will always be some people who don't want to do it, but maybe just out of necessity, people are going to have to start doing this someday.
Right. This is a really good conversation, and you're hearing it right here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. So we are a live call-in show right before the weekend starts, so we need your help. You still have time to get in on this great conversation about self-driving cars. So please call us, 833-288-3986.
There's nothing like EWTN's National Catholic Register. Revealing, engaging, inspiring. The most comprehensive news of the day from a Catholic perspective, with the moral authority that comes from being faithful to the teachings of the Catholic Church. And in the words of our founder, Monsignor Matthew Smith, a paper that will always be loyal to the Church and has no selfish axe to grind. Because the truth, when the Register was founded in 1927, is still the truth today. The award-winning National Catholic Register helps readers engage the culture with confidence in the saving and sanctifying gospel of Jesus Christ. Get 6 free issues today by ordering online at ncregister.com/radio or call 800-421-3230 and mention code RADIO. That's 800-421-3230 and mention code RADIO. The National Catholic Register. Read faithfully.
Here is today's quote from Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar. Don't waste time in life trying to get even with your enemies. Death is a tremendous equalizer. 6 weeks after you're all dead, you'll pretty much look the same. Let the Lord take care of those whom you think have harmed you. All you have to do is love and forgive. Try to forget and leave all else to the Master. Mother's perpetual calendar is available by calling 1-800-854-6316.
Hi, I'm Al Cresta. Join me for a daily conversation about the things that matter most on Cresta in the Afternoon. This afternoon, 4 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is EWTN, Catholic Radio.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. Are you curious about the Catholic faith and need answers? Call to Communion is the show for you. Today at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Well, you never know what's going to be discussed on this program, so we appreciate you tuning in and calling in and participating in this conversation today about your feelings, your thoughts regarding driverless cars, self-driving cars. They are being tested in many places around the country. There's been at least one fatality in Tempe, Arizona, near where Debbie lives.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean we should throw the whole thing out the window. We just want to know what your thoughts are on this. 833-288-3986.
I will tell you something funny, though. So on the freeway, when you see these driverless cars, Marty and I were coming home from an event several weeks back, and it was about 10 o'clock at night on the freeways out here in Arizona, and you can see them. They're pretty big cars, and so it was up a ways from us, and it's hilarious because you watch everybody on the freeway just pull over, in the right-hand lane or the left-hand lane to get away from it. It's pretty funny. But I think that's just a natural, a natural tendency, right? Just to kind of say, well, let me get away from this, no person car. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot more of you who want to weigh in, and that would include Julie next, who is in Fort Worth, Texas, listening on the EWTN app. Hello, Julie.
Hello. Well, I just wanted to make a couple of points. My husband has a Tesla, which has the self-driving feature, so it's not totally autonomous. Mm-hmm. But even when he's got the self-driving feature on, the person has to be in front of in front of the wheel, and every few minutes or so, you have to touch the wheel so that you know that it's there. His car, most of them have like 8 cameras that surround them, so they're constantly, like you were saying, surveying what's going on. It can even spot dogs, with little avatars that you'll see pop up. So they're constantly upgrading the software. I mean, it's a constant thing where they do updates and so forth to improve the situation. If you see a hazard or something on the road that the car wants to respond in a different way than what it should, there's a button that you can press, and then you say, there's whatever it is, the directions are incorrect or whatever. Of course, it's very much connected to the internet or to Wi-Fi or whatever. So the one danger would be that if all of those systems were to go down, then the car would have perhaps a difficult time navigating the way that it should. But when you think about all the fatalities on the road today, and that's with drivers, the autonomous drivers may be even safer. And then, the point that you were making again about it being accessible or making the world more accessible for people who cannot drive or can no longer drive, to be able to get around, to get to mass, to get to their doctors, to get to the grocery stores, and so forth. I mean, that might be a tremendous benefit in the future. So I don't really care for it, to be totally in control. But the way that these cars are engineered today, there is some need for in front of them. In front of the wheel.
Right. Well, Julie, thanks for your thoughts on this. You and some of the social media commenters that we mentioned earlier are pointing out this very, I think, important aspect of all this, and that is how much of a blessing it could be for handicapped or, people who aren't able to, get out and drive themselves. Pam said on Facebook, for example, I think my parents would like it to get to visit more and go to daily mass. They wouldn't need anyone to pick them up and so forth. So a lot of this is pretty common, I think, with technological advances. There are many, many great uses for it, and then there remain the questions, the concerns. So, I just think you mentioned, the driver has to touch the wheel once in a while to know that it's there. I would think maybe the driver has to touch the wheel so that the wheel knows the driver is there. Maybe, but hey, Debbie, what do you think?
Well, no, I am so grateful, Julie, that you called in and shared about the car that you guys own. I think it's very important to know that the technology is there and the software and they're constantly improving. I think, I don't have any, the more I think about this, you're spot on. I mean, so many people can benefit from having these driverless cars. I guess where I'm at is I hope and pray that those that are in charge of our country, our world, put safeguards in place so that people can feel comfortable, taking part in this. I don't know. It's still the freeway situation, the highway situation. That just it kind of makes me nervous. But going from like a grocery store to a church or something of that nature to work, I think it's kind of brilliant, actually. It could really work out well. So any final comments, Julie?
Yes, I think that for me, when my husband has it on the autonomous driving feature, it's much safer. It's less nerve-wracking for me to be on a freeway with it than it would be on side streets, where you have a lot more distractions and so forth. I don't like him to turn on that feature at all when we're driving in town. That's my personal opinion, but it does make me more nervous to be in town driving with that feature on than it does on the freeway.
Okay, so then you don't really have a complete comfort level with the technology, like if a pedestrian stepped off the curb or something came flying onto the street or something very quick, because that can happen in the city, right?
Well, it does see the pedestrians, it does see the dogs, and it does see everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just my own personal whatever. I don't really care for that.
Okay, gotcha.
You can adjust, like the speed limit on it so that it goes, under the speed limit if you want to, going through the neighborhoods and so forth. There are certain things that it doesn't see yet, like for instance, speed bumps. And it may in the future there may be something that they're going to implant in those those speed bumps that you have in neighborhoods, that it will see those. Right now I think the last time I checked, it just plows right over.
Wow.
So there are things that they're improving the technology on this all the time.
Right.
But it's still out there, I think, somewhat in the future for me to be totally comfortable with it.
Well, and before you go, Julie, that you make a really good point with the speed bumps. We have a lot of speed bumps out here in Arizona, and my husband actually almost bottomed out the car last Sunday, actually going to church because they put a speed bump a little bit too high, and everybody they were really upset. And so that's interesting. So you're paying, like, if you're paying a lot of money for this driverless car and this thing bottoms out on a speed bump, that's a problem, right? Yeah. They better.
Well, Julie,
they should improve the technology on that part, I think.
Yeah. Excellent contribution to the conversation, Julie. Thanks for listening and for calling. 833-288-3986. We heard from Michael M. watching on YouTube. Hello, everybody there. Michael M. says, I am more worried about double-decker buses since there is no driver on the top. Okay, I'm not that familiar with double-decker buses, but that's
Is that
Michael
supposed to be a
concern.
joke?
I don't know.
There's no double-decker buses because there's no driver on the top? Double-decker?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not that familiar with them. But Michael M. apparently is. So Michael,
but isn't there a driver at the bottom of a double-decker bus?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's got to be a funny, right?
Perhaps, yeah.
Oh, Michael, tell us if that's supposed to be a joke. Yes, it is. Okay, very much.
Okay.
I thought so. Okay, we're smiling, we're laughing. It's Friday. Give us a chance here. Okay, let's hear what Mike has to say in Crystal Lake, Illinois, on the EWTN app. Hi, Mike.
Hey, good afternoon. How you guys doing?
Great.
Doing well,
I'm going to get
thanks.
in a driverless car this afternoon. I have a feeling I'm going to test drive one.
You'd be getting in it by yourself if I was with you. I'm concerned about the over-reliance on these technologies for the general population. In general, we've kind of been lulled.
Mike, forgive me, Mike. We're getting a lot of like wind noise or something on your line. I can't really hear you as clearly as we'd like. If you can make an adjustment.
All right. Okay.
That's beautiful. Much better. Thank you.
We have a great sense of over-reliance on technology in our society today. I work for a multi-billion-dollar defense contractor as an electronic engineer. And I've built automobiles from the ground up. And I can tell you that you really have to take this with a grain of salt, the degree of safety that they're promoting in driverless automobiles. You know, we are not investing millions of dollars in research dollars in every automobile that comes off the line. These things are going to be mass-produced, and they don't have the same set of stopgaps that we put into launching rockets. in my opinion, they're kind of using the general population as guinea pigs to ferret out the failures. As your previous caller said, they're constantly getting software updates, which means that they're finding problems. Well, if you're getting software updates that frequently, that product should be shelved for a little while before you launch it out into the general population, don't you think? I see, in my own experience as an engineer, in very, very large products and very large programs, the failures that go into these things. And even after we think we have it all figured out, things still go wrong. Just how much are you willing to gamble on the average person's life on an autonomous driving machine? I'm personally not happy with it. I think it needs to be put into further development on a track before we can really launch it into the general population.
Right.
It scares me. I have a lot of I got 50 years of engineering experience, and I would never get into one of these cars. So thank you for taking a moment to listen.
Well, Mike, before you go, can I just comment on that? So let me just share something. So I started out at the beginning of the show saying that I'm really troubled by them, and they concern me. And they just seem very strange, and I wouldn't rely completely on their technology. And then I was trying to be open-minded with everybody calling in and saying, about folks that are disabled and stuff like that. And so, I think the intention is really good, that people are trying to make life easier for people, and I love that part of it. But I have to tell you, we are a testing ground out here, and a lot of people are struggling in Arizona with the thought of it. There's a lot of groups forming, saying that we just don't feel comfortable. They're all over the place now, and they're going very fast. I mean, they go fast, and it causes you as a driver, me as a driver, to try to keep up with it. And that in and of itself seems a little strange too. So I struggle with this, but they're here. They've arrived, Mike. And so what do we do now?
Well, we have the right to push back on these things. It'll only take one horrible, massive accident before it destroys their reputation. But I pray to God that my loved one's not going to be part of that awful accident.
Right.
This is kind of like the old, they never put up a red light at the crosswalk until some poor child is killed, right?
That's true.
Is that going to be the same situation here with these autonomous cars? We don't want one running through a procession, of children or anyone else. It's just there's a lot at risk. And just because you can do something doesn't always validate the reasons for doing it.
You're absolutely right, Mike. And you bring, like you said, a very educated opinion to this conversation. So thank you so much for calling in, Mike, and sharing your thoughts on that. 833-288-3986. A lot more calls we're going to get to. Want to mention, though, first, EWTN Pro-Life Weekly with Prudence Robertson is Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on EWTN Radio. The show helps you stay informed and educated with the latest news and truth on abortion, euthanasia, assisted suicide, and the culture of death. Certainly one of the most important shows you can listen to on EWTN Radio. Pro-Life Weekly at Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern and 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
So one of my fellow Arizona residents just sent a message in saying, how come Arizona got stuck testing these cars? Because we're Arizona. We get stuck with a lot of things. They think, just give it to Arizona. They have all that desert out there. They'll never notice what's going on.
So, I was wondering, as far as driving speeds and things like tickets, because I don't know, are the self-driving cars, do they not go 1 mile an hour over the speed? Do they obey the speed limit in all situations? Because if they do, they're going to be a hazard because nobody else is obeying the speed limit,
right?
And going 10 over. And then if they do,
Right.
Do you get the ticket because you're in the back seat?
Well, that's what I was trying to share with you. Our city streets are 45 miles an hour. And when I was at the stoplight right next to this Waymo car, it took off when the light turned green. It got to 45 miles an hour within a split second. I've never seen a car go so fast. And I, I have a pretty quick car, and I tried to keep up. I couldn't even keep up. And then of course, I passed it because I went a little bit over that. But then I kind of just tried to see how quickly it went, and it was fast. And so I don't like the whole. It's very the movements are very abrupt. How you know what I mean? I don't like that feeling. It doesn't. It doesn't feel right. Okay, let's hear what Kathy has to say in Cheyenne, Wyoming, on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, I've called in before. I drove an ambulance for many years, and I have a couple problems. First, I think as a public safety officer, I would worry about whether or not these driverless cars especially can hear sirens and are responding according to state law as to what you're supposed to do. The other thing is, I have a problem with giving up my personal responsibility for being in control of a car to a manufacturer. And it was even just driving an ambulance, trying to determine what's wrong with the patient, but also determining the cause, and sometimes having to help law enforcement determine responsibility. Makes me wonder on these driverless cars, is the manufacturer responsible because there's no driver? Who becomes responsible? So, and also, you're talking about this accident that occurred where there was a fatality. I wonder whether or not, if there had been a more in tune driver, whether it would have been avoidable. And without a driver, you don't know. The ones where you can sit in the car and the car drives itself, I feel people may become complacent and feel like the car is supposed to drive itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what popped into my mind, Kathy, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but the producers and manufacturers of these cars may try to get some sort of immunity from liability. I don't think that should ever happen, but what it reminds me of is the pharmaceuticals. I think during COVID, didn't they somehow get legislation or something that said they couldn't be sued or something like that? Anyway, I would hate to see that ever happen because that would be a disaster, and I don't think it would happen, but that's just what came into my head. Debbie, I don't know if you got any thoughts on this. But
Well, and given the work that you have done, Kathy, let me throw this into the mix of the conversation. See, this is where my mind goes. I live in a state where we do have a lot of car accidents at intersections because of the way our light system works here in Arizona. And we see these accidents, and then everything stops, and the police come, the ambulance comes, everybody comes, and you see people get out of the car, and sometimes they're nice to each other, or sometimes they're yelling at each other, sometimes people get into some verbal fights over the accident or whatever. And then I got to thinking, what happens if there is an accident with this driverless car? I could foresee people taking a tire iron and taking it out on this very expensive vehicle because they have no one to talk to. I mean, this thing it can really mess with a person's brain when you're shocked with an accident. That's just where my mind goes. Like, how do people get any type of resolution to things that happen that are of an accident nature? You know what I'm saying, Kathy? When you have no one to talk to.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and nobody can tell you exactly what happened.
Right.
So, yeah, like they were saying before, I think for me it's personal responsibility, though. A lot of the things that have, there are so many distractions already that adding one more distraction by not having a driver is not good.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks for contributing today. We appreciate it. But you see where I was going with this, right, Jerry? I mean, this idea of like now you get in an accident and somebody gets mad and has some kind of rage and takes it out on this expensive vehicle that's very expensive. Now you've got another lawsuit. Now you got another thing. I mean, this thing the ripple effect can be really brutal.
Yeah, well, Ryan, watching on Facebook today, says, so Arizona is testing for driverless cars. Good place to start with the triple digits heat for the last month. He says, this has got to be good for the environment, question mark. It is time to move away from fossil fuel. God said we're to take care of the land. He says, let go and let God. So Ryan is in favor of letting this whole thing evolve and go where it's going to go.
Okay, thank you for weighing in, Ryan. But you're talking to, like, I'd rather go back to the Amish country. I'm telling you, the horse and buggy is definitely for me. But go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, Francis in Richmond, Virginia, listening on the EWTN app. Hello, Francis.
Hello, Jerry and Debbie. Thank you for taking the call. And Jerry and Debbie, I'd vote against the driverless car. And one example would be the terrible plane crashes. I think we had two with the Max Boeing aircraft, where the computer kind of took over, and the pilots couldn't stop the plane from crashing. And I don't think we have the system worked out yet where we can do this safely.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. You're making another great point, Francis. This show has been filled with great contributions to the discussion. And you're right. I mean, again, it gets back to technology, and previous caller mentioned, all of the software updates that are Mike. It was Mike who made the comment about all of the software updates that are coming in, which, Debbie, when we get an update when I get an update on my phone, it says this fixes ... So it means there's something wrong. Something not working properly.
Yeah.
With the technology on here, and I appreciate the companies like phone manufacturers and stuff being on top of all of this, but this is stepping up to another level, actually.
Right. I just think that people's, their heart rates are going to go up, the rage, the violence, and I don't like that. I wish we could get back to a more simple time. And I know the train has left the station. I know that's very difficult to do, but I mean, it just would be nice to get to calm it down a bit. It just seems like it's racing to the next level, and to me, I just don't think that's good for our brains. What do you think, Francis?
Yeah, I agree, Debbie. The pilots of those two aircraft were desperately trying to keep the plane from crashing, and they couldn't countermand the computer.
It's horrible. Horrible. I mean, can you imagine what they went through? I mean, see, this is what I mean. Sometimes I think in the effort to make our lives easier, we're complicating things. Right?
Yeah. Francis, thank you so very, very much. Appreciate that. We have time real quickly for Catherine in Houston listening on Guadalupe Radio Network. Catherine, we have about 90 seconds. Go for it.
Great. Well, I would just say the big question seems to be this technology as a tool. How can it serve mankind, and to what end, and to what purpose? So my great aunt Bessie lived to be 100, and her father had the last Pony Express line, like the end of it. And when we moved from horses to these mechanical cars, right, there was a bunch of outrage and concern and everything else. But the car was like a replacement for the horse. Man was still in charge of it. We were still responsible for it, just like all your other callers have raised issues of, am I responsible for what I'm doing? I think there's probably a good place for each tool. People in New York who ride trains all the time don't have the understanding of how people in Texas and Arizona and all the rest of the country who drive cars, they don't understand our mindset with a car and what it could mean. I would love to go drive your parents to church, right? Like, we can still keep humanity and all the neat things we do with driving to help others and bless others and stay safe and be good stewards for the environment. I just have real concerns about what this kind of technology means, and if people just want to be in a self-driving car to plug into their phone and be infotained, that's a bit sad.
Well, another great contribution, Catherine, thank you. And this is definitely very different from previous forms of progress and technological advances. So we're going to have to end it on that one. Catherine, thank you so much. We had Mike on the line a moment ago. Mike said anything can be hacked, and that's another concern.
Yeah.
Deb in Savannah, Georgia, we're not going to get to you, but Deb says it's about isolation and a control grab. So we'll have to revisit this topic at some point.
Why don't we keep tabs on what's happening with these autonomous cars? I think this was an excellent conversation, Jerry.
Yeah, and we're coming up with you another show on Monday. We're going to ask you, what was your lemonade stand? What was your lemonade stand? I.e., when you were growing up, what did you do to make a little bit of pocket change to buy some candy or a hamburger somewhere, or maybe buy yourself a bicycle or something? What was your lemonade stand? How did you make money as a kid growing up? That's our topic on Monday. Thanks to Ace, Jeff, Matt, the affiliates. Thank you, of course, Take Two family. Until Monday, have a beautiful and blessed weekend. St. Joseph, pray for us.
Exciting things are happening in Podcast Central at EWTN.